De prime abord, nous rendons grâce à Dieu qui nous son accueil chaleureux et son hospitalité légendaire. Vos Excellences, distingués délégués, permettez-moi de vous transmettre les salutations chaleureuses du très honorable président du Sénat du Burundi, très honorable Gervais Ndirakobucha, qui m'a mandaté pour le représenter à cette conférence. Il formule ses vœux de plein succès pour cette 4e conférence interparlementaire sur les valeurs de la famille et la souveraineté.
President extend his
Les pays
well
africains
wishes
peuvent
for
contribuer
this work you're about to
à
carry.
consolider le consensus parlementaire et à faire
For
progresser la
African
charte
countries to
africaine des valeurs
consolidate
familiales
parliamentary
et de la souveraineté
consensus
à plusieurs
and also
niveaux,
African values. This should be
surtout
done at various levels,
institutionnel,
especially at the
diplomatique,
institutional level, the diplomatic level,
et socioculturel.
legislative and also social cultural.
Les pays doivent
Under such circumstances,
renforcer la
countries
conciliation
should strengthen
nationale.
parliamentary
Les parlements
ownership
peuvent organiser des débats
where
parlementaires
Parliament can
réguliers
actually have a regular debate
souveraineté
on
culturelle,
family values,
politique sociale,
cultural sovereignty,
harmoniser les lois nationales
political
avec les principes
culture,
défendus dans la Charte.
and harmonize this with values that are part of the Charter.
Ils doivent également développer une diplomatie
They should also
parlementaire
develop
africaine en utilisant les formes de
parliamentary diplomacy
les réseaux de l'Union interparlementaire,
model to the level of African Union, regional community that we are part of, to defend our cultural approach.
promouvoir une approche équilibrée et inclusive
We need to
pour obtenir
improve an inclusive approach in order to have a huge consensus. Our countries should also prioritize dialogue instead of confrontation.
également mettre en avant la protection de la
We should also put forth the protection of the family, culture, and sovereignty while respecting international commitment in order to find consensual agreement to our problems.
consensus parlementaire.
We want to say that the parliamentary consensus is only credible when it yields visible results through policies that sustain family social protection, the fight against violence, and also support to the youth. This will enable African countries, and namely Burundi that we here represent, to show that family values are linked to national development and social cohesion. Dear parliamentary colleagues, I cannot end without sharing with you that the main challenge of our dear African continent is to find a fine balance between African sovereignty, international commitment, and also the expectations of external partners. I call on you to make sure that we lead these family values and also sovereignty to safeguard our family. Long live Africa. Thank you for your kind attention.
Let's give the honorable member another round of applause. Most grateful for those thoughtful, thought-provoking words shared with us. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this is Africa. This is Ghana, and this is Accra. And I'm sure that this conference will not be complete, and you all agree with me, if we do not identify ourselves, especially through our music. It is on this note that I crave your indulgence to invite, to allow for a musical interlude as we prepare for the stakes to go higher, as we prepare for the keynote address. Please let us have a musical interlude at this point. It's the talking drums, ladies and gentlemen. Accompanied by dancers doing a dance known as the Bamaya dance. It's a dance that originates from the northern part of Ghana. It is called the Bamaya dance. It was said to have been discovered by a hunter who during his hunt came across dwarfs performing this dance. That was a beautiful performance by the Abibi Gurma from the University of Ghana Performing Arts. Please, a round of applause for the students of the Performing Arts University of Ghana. Dancing Bamaya, as I indicated. It's a dance that is reserved for the gods, they say. It originates from the northern part of Ghana, and it is said that it was discovered by a hunter who went hunting and at night or during the dawn time came across dwarfs. It is for the tales. I don't know how true it is, but returned home with this dance, and it has since been performed at dawn mostly when there are big events held in the north. Another round of applause for the Abibi Gurma of the University of Ghana. Thank you very much for that one. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, once again, my name is Al-Hassan Suhini, and as we prepare to take the keynote address, I, at this point, will want to leave you in the capable hands of my younger brother, Reverend John Ntim Fojo, who is a member of parliament for the Asin South constituency, and also, a very, very vociferous person when it comes to the family values, especially the bill that the Parliament of Ghana has recently considered. Please, a round of applause for my younger brother, Reverend John Ntim Fojo.
Thank you very much, my respected colleague and friend, the Honorable Al-Hassan Suhini, the Member of Parliament for Tamale North and the Deputy Minister for Roads and Highways. The Right Honorable Speaker of Parliament, the Chief of Staff, His Eminence, the Archbishop Nicholas Duncan Williams, the distinguished Senate Presidents and Speakers of Parliament across the continent, eminent clergy, the honorable members of Parliament, ladies and gentlemen. Still in pursuit of family and sovereignty and values of the African continent, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce a distinguished gentleman who is our keynote speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, the extraordinary leader that I introduce to you, the Right Honorable Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagbane, is a seasoned legislator of global renown. He has held various leadership roles at global parliamentary platforms, including currently the chairperson of the Inter-Parliamentary Union, IPU, a 50-member African geopolitical group, and a member of the task force to mediate the Russian-Ukrainian war on behalf of the IPU. He is also a member and leader on many global parliamentary platforms, including the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. Such an incredible man, risen to the global stage and the national front lines of democracy. He came from a humble beginning in Sambo, a beautiful community in the Upper West region of Ghana, and rose into this distinguished stature. Trained as a lawyer from the University of Ghana and the Ghana Law School, and called to the bar in 1982, he has held the position as a member of parliament since the inception of the fourth Republican democracy in this country. So as a matter of fact, since 1993, at the constitution of the first parliament, the Right Honorable Speaker entering parliament, representing proudly the good people of Nadoli Kalio, has remained in this house in 1993 till now and has never turned back. So he has been a member of parliament from the first all the way to the seventh parliament, and now, even in the ninth parliament, as the speaker. But all through the distinguished 33-year-long distinguished service, and still counting, he held at various occasions roles as minority leader, and another time when the tables turned, became the majority leader, in between having served as cabinet minister, minister for water resources, works and housing, himself a distinguished man and successful family man. He became the deputy speaker of parliament in the 7th Parliament between 2017 and 2020. In 2021, the Right Honorable Speaker made history, rare history, becoming the first Speaker of Parliament to be elected from the opposition party. And that distinguished feat, having been remarkably and creditably discharged between 2021 and 2025 January, won a renewed mandate to continue a second term as the Speaker of Parliament in the 9th Parliament. A very rare feat that very few across the world achieve. The Right Honorable Speaker of Parliament is the Chairman of the Speakers and Presidents of African Legislatures, COSPAL. He's been instrumental in shaping Ghana's democracy and parliamentary system, and in recognition of this great feat, the University of Professional Studies, Accra, in the year 2017, recognized him and awarded him the honoris causa Doctor of Laws. He is respected across the aisle, respected in this country. He is noted to be a man of integrity, a principled man, a man who speaks of various shades of opinions without prejudice to stature, without prejudice to status. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a great man who has dedicated most part of his life in serving his country for the betterment of his people. He is a champion of the proper human sexual rights and family values. He is a champion, continental champion on African sovereignty, values, and family system, and the president of the African Parliamentary Network Against Corruption, APNAC. Ladies and gentlemen, the Right Honorable Speaker is properly married with children. And it's important that I stress that he's properly married, not to another man, and with children. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure at this point. Let us make welcome the keynote speaker, the Right Honorable Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagman.
Please, kindly resume your seats. This is some of the problems that I carry on my head. You know, these young ones, they do everything to reduce my market, so that the beautiful ladies here should not be thinking that there is space. I won't compete with you, don't worry. Let me humbly, at least, plead with all of you to give a very hefty applause to all those who have delivered various messages to you before me, starting from our most revered Archbishop Duncan Williams up to the solidarity messages that have been delivered. Please, let's give them an applause. It's right and proper to acknowledge the presence of all of you here, as have been done, and I accordingly, with humility, adopt all the dignitaries that are present, but with particular emphasis on His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Ghana, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, who is ably represented here by the Chief of Staff. Please, you are most welcome, and we are happy to have you in our midst. It's really through the efforts of His Excellency, his commitment to the goals of this whole initiative that made him to do everything to be present. And that was what occasioned the postponement of the conference in May to early June. The rest, I'm sure, my good brother, the Chief of Staff, will fill that in to you. I am only going to affirm what has already been said, but it's important for me to take you a bit back to history. This conference reminds me of the All-African People's Conference in 1958 that took place here in Accra at the community center just opposite the Supreme Court building. And there were dignitaries from all over Africa that came to participate in that conference. And such rich, flourishing, beautiful statements as we've just done were delivered. They were all aimed at getting the whole of Africa from the yoke of colonialism. We can say that with the collective efforts of all of them, Africa is now politically free. We are not under any bondage again politically. And the seed was sown here at the All-African People's Conference. I must say that the representation reflects exactly what took place at that time. And so we have a lot of participants from many countries, more importantly, 20 major countries that are present here. We have as major participants representatives from Burkina Faso. It was then called Upper Volta. From Burundi, from Cameroon, from Chad, from the Democratic Republic of Congo, from Eswatini, which our brothers and sisters from the West could not pronounce, and so they decided Swaziland. They couldn't pronounce Eswatini. Then we have Guinea-Bissau, we have Kenya, we have Liberia, we have Madagascar, Malawi, Morocco, Mozambique, Nigeria. We have many other observers, but we are more adorned here by our spiritual, religious, and traditional leaders. I want to acknowledge the presence of all of you and to, as I said, affirm some of the things that have already been stated and sometimes add another perspectives. But I will recommend this book to all of you. It's available electronically. You read it as a good, solid foundation of what I just mentioned, and that is going to build your faith, to brace yourself up, to fight the battle that we are engaged in, to ensure that true families, the sovereignty and values of Africa are entrenched in our continent. It's written by Dr. Susan Williams. A Nobel Peace winner. After he published this, it's not fiction, it's facts. It's facts about no other continent but Africa, the whole Africa. Don't mind the volume. Immediately you start reading it, you can't stop but completing this book. And I have read it like a student. So if you get my book here, you see that there are lines, there are commentary, and everything here. Very good, and I recommend it to all of you. Let me now say it is really an honor and a great privilege for me to stand here to be given the opportunity to deliver the keynote address. And I'll do this with a deal of reverence, humility, and honor. And as you've already been warmly welcomed, I want to add my voice to welcome all of you to Accra, a historic sanctuary of Pan-African liberation. And it is indeed a privilege for the opportunity accorded me to deliver the keynote address, because Ghana, particularly Accra, was referred to in those days as the Mecca of Africa. Organizers of the conference could not have settled on a more appropriate venue. After the delegates voted for Ghana to host the fourth conference. In fact, my good friend from Kenya recounted how Kenya offered to host it. But all the delegates said, when they heard that Ghana wanted to do so, that no, we want to go to Ghana. And we are happy to have you here, and I assure you, you will not regret taking that decision. Because this is the place that is most appropriate for this conference. Not just because of the historic reminder, but there are so many places of interest which I will urge you not to get yourself cocooned in the conference hall here, but to reach out. Even after the conference, I don't encourage you to leave. Stay back and enjoy the Ghana that we have today. So once again, you are most welcome. Let me emphasize this. This was the soil, Ghana, that the architecture of African self-determination was forged by forebears who understood that political independence was only the first step in a long walk to true freedom. Our forebears proclaimed that true emancipation lies in the complete restoration of our individual, cultural, and institutional autonomy. It is in furtherance of our long search for self-actualization that we gather at this fourth African Interparliamentary Conference to confront a defining challenge of our generation: the preservation and economic distress or cultural alienation that we find ourselves confronted with. There's an urgent need for us to preserve as we modernize and codify our identity in an increasingly globalized world. Distinguished participants, all in our various indigenous areas have philosophical maxims deeply rooted in our indigenous heritage, which reflects the beauty and sweetness of life, as we say, which lie in its collective expression and our communal interconnectedness. We find our meaning, protection, and purpose within the sacred framework of the family. We all always say, I am because you are. You are because we are. And our friends in South Africa will refer to it as Ubuntu. With this in mind, these our founding fathers decided to call Africa a family. They were not referring to it as a continent. They knew the importance of the family unit. So please, rewind your minds. You see the founding fathers marrying from across Africa. Not in their countries. And in fact, the first suitor to our first Prime Minister, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, was a beautiful lady from South Africa. Yes. And that did not work because the lady saw that the man and his passion, he will not be available for her. So she resisted all the temptation to marry our first Prime Minister. And then he moved to Egypt, married a young lady who had just finished the university. I recall what their first son said, Gamel Nkrumah, about the reason behind the marriage: to make Africa a family, to connect North Africa to the rest of the continent. And you saw that the president of Zimbabwe, His Excellency President Mugabe, married from Ghana. His Excellency Hassan Banda came all the way from Malawi, lived in Ghana, studied in Ghana, opened a clinic at Kumasi, and practiced medicine for many years before Nkrumah prevailed on him to go back home, Nyasaland, to fight for the independence of that country. So this issue about family, making Ghana, Africa a family, started then. They knew the importance of the family unit, and that the only way to get us to unite, to form the United States of Africa was to have the family unit. Let me say that as legislators and chosen custodians of the people's sovereign will, our mandate is to ensure that the laws we enact, the budgets we approve, and the policies we oversee reflect this reality. True sovereignty does not begin at our national borders or within legislative chambers. It is born, nurtured, and sustained in the smallest unit of governance on earth, that is the family. If the family breaks under economic distress, as we are experiencing now, or cultural alienation, the state itself loses its structural integrity. Your Excellencies, we must approach the issue of sovereignty with maturity and legal precision. The long history they've given you about me is not to talk about my age. It's to talk about my experience. So some people say that I'm an old man. I beg to disagree with them. You have made me younger than before, and I've had the opportunity to traverse the whole of the continent and to your countries. But the advantage of they had that interconnectedness and bond and came together even after the Manchester Conference to fight for the independence of the continent. We only meet at conferences. And I must say that we have also done very, very well, even though we meet at conferences, not in schools. We have been able to bond, and many of those leaders gathered here have been with me at many, many conferences, and we are the best of friends. So we need to approach this issue of sovereignty with maturity and legal precision. The boundaries that we draw are just in our minds. They are not actual. There are different boundaries that we have to confront. Because on a daily basis, you know, across our borders, the families cut across, they do things together on a daily basis. Yet we call them boundaries. And we decided to put some structures there to rather obstruct the free flow of people, business, trade, and everything. So we need to look at the issue of sovereignty with maturity and legal precision. Sovereignty is not a passive shield. It is an active, vigorous exercise of self-definition. The inherent right of a people to determine their social, economic, and moral destiny, free from external coercion or ideological conditionalities. I stand here as the chief of a kingdom which cuts across Ghana and Côte d'Ivoire. we have festivals together. I stand here as a chief of another kingdom who's cast between Ghana and Burkina Faso. And I stand here as a chief of another kingdom which cast between Ghana, Togo, Benin, and part of Nigeria. So where are the borders? When we examine the conditions and the constitutions of our African states, we find a remarkable jurisprudential consensus. Here in Ghana, Article 39 of the 1992 Constitution mandates that the state foster, preserve, and enrich our traditional cultural values while balancing these with the demands of modern development and fundamental human freedoms. Similar provisions exist across virtually every nation represented in this room. Those of you who have read the history of America, you have seen that America was also balkanized by the same European countries. And so New York was New Amsterdam. Well, that was the hold of the Dutch. So it was named New Amsterdam. It's when the British took over, and that was during the time of Duke of York, that they changed the Amsterdam to York. And so you now have New York. So it's not only Africa that was balkanized. America was equally balkanized. And you know where the French took over? You know the other countries and states that were shared. And you know why we have Maryland, named after Queen Elizabeth, who was believed to be a virgin because she became a queen at the age of around 15 years. And so she took over Maryland and Virginia, which were then captured by Columbus, all that area. And because they wanted that land to be separate from the other states, that is the only place you hear the two names. The founding father of America being Washington, and then the founder of the land being Columbus. And so you have what? Washington, D.C. Washington District of Columbus. So please, we should not allow this to keep us from forming the African family. Our constitutions empower Parliament to act as the bridge between traditional heritage and modern statutory law. When African parliaments legislate on the family, we fulfill a direct, legitimate constitutional command. In spite of this, we have in recent times witnessed a troubling narrative. Development assistance, trade agreements, natural resource agreements, and bilateral cooperation have been made contingent upon the adoption of legal and cultural paradigms alien to our social cultural fabric. I had a delegation from UK recently. When there was Roman Empire, they captured England. And those of you who have read literature, now they say our time, they were calling it English literature. Now they say literature in English. You have read Shakespeare's books. You have come across a lot about the expeditions of Rome to England and how they used to describe England at that time. So it's not only peculiar to Africa. Those infiltrations started as far back as that time to England. I want to emphasize this matter. People trying to make so many things contingent upon the adoption of legal and cultural paradigms alien to our social cultural fabric. I want to emphasize that conditioning aid on the alteration of domestic laws to the disadvantage of beneficial countries violates the principle of sovereign equality enshrined in the United Nations Charter. And mind you, we have the Mandin Charter, which established the Sundiata Kingdom, Sundiata Keita, of 1235. 1235, that was the constitution that started the empire that was inherited by Mansa Musa, the richest person that ever lived on earth. And that is supposed to be coming from a continent that is the poorest in the world. How? Contradictions in terms. The richest person that ever lived on earth from Africa. Even today, they refer to the richest person today in the world as who? Today, Elon Musk, and he is from Africa. Yet Africa is poor. Can that be true? Is Africa poor? It's Africans that are poor. Africa itself is rich and prosperous. So there are some things that are preventing Africans from enjoying their natural wealth that God so graciously gave to us. Let me assure everybody, we in Africa do not seek to dictate the internal legal frameworks of other continents. And we expect in turn the same respect for our sovereignty. Our laws must look like the people they are written to protect. Look at the beauty of the African colors. Look at the beauty of the African resources gathered here. Why should I be dressed in tropical Africa like somebody dressed in Finland? Where a part of Finland called Lapland, for 6 months in every year, they don't see sunlight. I am blessed on daily basis with sunlight. I have day and night. They will have about 6 months night and sometimes some months day. Why should we dress the same way? Christmas, you people celebrate some gentleman who goes around giving gifts. What's his name? Santa Claus. That is where Santa Claus comes from. That's why he's presented in that way, because of the cold weather. Please, we must reflect our identity, our uniqueness, who we are. So a law that does not resonate with the spirit, history, and moral conscience of the citizenry is a dead law. As African legislators, our loyalty must remain anchored to the mandates given to us by our electorates. There is the urgent need for us to redefine the African family structure in the 21st century. In trying to do so, we must avoid adopting an oversimplified or imported definition of the family. The Western concept of the nuclear family, isolated, individualistic, lonely, and strictly bounded, fails to capture the expansive, resilient, and self-sustaining genius of the African family. So over there they say chop time, no friend. In Africa, it's a chop time that you show friendship. True or false? It's true. We are brought up to always reserve food for sudden visitors. Any woman that failed to do that, if the sudden visitor enters, you forfeit your food for the visitor. It's during chop time that you show friendship. Outside there, it's not the same. There's vast difference between our family units. In Africa, a family is an intergenerational web of mutual responsibility. Grandparents who carry our historical memory, aunts and uncles who share the burden of child care, and the community that rallies around the vulnerable are all known to us on a daily basis. It doesn't happen like that over there. This is not an archaic relic. It is our most successful indigenous social safety net. Family is a social security that cushioned our people through economic downturns, civic conflicts, and health crises when former state welfare systems were inadequate. And so, to quote one of our elders, he says, to protect the African family is to protect our primary economic engine, our first school of civic virtue, and our oldest institution of social security. That is the African family. Yet the family, as an institution, is on that severe structural strain. Economic vulnerability is disintegrating families faster than any external ideology. When parents are forced to migrate across borders or into overcrowded urban slums to survive, the family fractures. As educational deficit compounds it, and you know where we struggle these days, particularly the youth, all clamoring to leave our borders to find green pastures somewhere else. it compounds the problem. And this is because our systems alienate our youth from their roots. We are no longer creating an intergenerational chasm that tears or bounds families, but now a system that tears households apart from within. And an unregulated digital frontier passes through community filters, exposing our children to hyper-individualistic values before they can weigh them against their own. These days, age of how many months, the child is pushed into the factory of formal education. Parents are on their own ways. They hardly see the children. Schools are asked to mold them, but they are not well resourced. At the end of the day, the product becomes something else, not African. So if we wish to preserve the family, our interventions must move beyond rhetoric. We must recognize the family as a microeconomic stakeholder, creating tax incentives for households that care for elderly relatives and prioritizing national budget investment in affordable housing. National investment in child nutrition, and so also in maternal health care. True protection requires a shift from moral posturing to material empowerment. We find this synthesis captured in the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. And I want to refer you to Article 18 of the Charter, which states, and I quote, "The family shall be the natural unit and basis of society. It shall be protected by the state, who shall take care of its physical health and moral being. The state shall have the duty to assist the family, which is the custodian of morals and traditional values recognized by the community." The Charter does not treat rights and values as opposing forces. No, not the African Charter. The African Charter places the family at the center of the rights framework. If there are no human beings, how can you have human rights? You want us to adopt a system that will prevent the creation of human beings. And you say, when we are against it, you say we are violating human rights. Therefore, our language and legislation must reflect the highest standards of statesmanship and human compassion. Defending African family values must never be used as a pretext for state-sanctioned violence, oppression, or the denial of basic human security to any citizen. The true strength of African culture does not lie in exclusion or brutality. It lies in our capacity for restoration, community care, and deep hospitality, what we in Ghana proudly call, I'm not going to speak other tongues I'm not very good at. So forgive me if I murder your language. Obake. Obake. You see, the first step has landed me in trouble. But I know this one, Akwaba. I also know Wezo. And I know Marhaba. In my language, we say Yewayane. Our legislative frameworks must firmly protect the most vulnerable within the family ecosystem. We must pass laws that combat domestic violence, eliminate harmful practices that dehumanize our girls and women, end child labor, and secure the economic rights of widows and orphans. A family structure that tolerates the exploitation of its own members cannot claim to be a custodian of genuine African values. By purging these internal injustices, we strengthen our moral authority to resist external interference. And therefore, I proceed to call for a regional legislative synergy and Pan-African action. Your Excellencies, the challenges we face are transnational. Therefore, our response must be collective. No single African nation can safeguard its legislative sovereignty in isolation. When one country stands alone against unfair external pressures, it risks economic isolation. But when we stand together as a continent of 1.4 billion people, our voice becomes immutable. We must actively utilize our regional legislative bodies, including Pan-African Parliament, the ECOWAS Parliament, the East African Legislative Assembly, the SADC Parliamentary Forum, and others, to build a unified legal shield. In fact, before the end of this month, I'll be in Morocco, Marrakesh, to meet not just the North Africa, but the whole Middle East at another very important conference on these matters. So, my good friend from Morocco, here I come. Ladies and gentlemen, it's really important for us to adopt the Charter. The formal adoption of an African Family Values Charter at this conference will advance this vision. Harmonizing family protection codes establishes a continental standard that prevents, and I quote, forum shopping, and resists external legal pressures, anchoring our societal structures in African realities. Again, through this collaborative Pan-African action, we ensure that our national sovereignties are structurally reinforced by an indigenous charter written by Africans for Africa. We need to further anchor the implementation of the charter with the African Union's Agenda 2063, specifically Aspiration 5, which envisions an Africa with a strong cultural identity, common heritage, shared values, and ethics. I'm sure if you have a meeting with some of our founding fathers, particularly recently, His Excellency Yoweri Museveni, he can give you the background of almost every tribe in Africa, where we started, how we moved, and where we are today. He has all that, and I have the benefit of sitting with him and going through it. He's written so many books, some he donated to me, and I've been reading them. It is very, very important for us to know that we have a common identity. we have a common heritage. We have shared values and our ethics. And they are very different from any other continent. And this is the most valuable assets to Africa. Luckily, we have the Agenda 2063. By anchoring implementation initiatives of Agenda 2063, our defense of family values becomes inextricably linked to our broader goals of integration, industrialization, and sustainable development. At this juncture, I pay a profound tribute to the visionary founding nations of this movement. There are many, but they are led by 9, especially Uganda. Uganda, your early commitment laid the foundations on which this continental coalition stands today. In particular, we owe an immense debt of gratitude to the Parliament and the people of Uganda. For 3 consecutive periods, as we've been told, Uganda kept the touch of this assignment aglow by serving as the dedicated host of this conference. In Ghana, you know about Women Aglo. Now we are having Uganda Aglo. Your unwavering institutional resilience and hospitality provided the vital sanctuary in which our shared ideals were protected, nurtured, and sustained during those foundational years. Africa thanks you for your steadfast leadership. In conclusion, it's important I emphasize the vision of a prosperous, self-determined African continent. Your Excellencies, Right Honorable Speakers, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, we stand, as we've been told earlier, at a critical crossroads. Choices we make in our parliaments over the next few years will determine whether Africa enters the mid-21st century as a culturally distinct, self-determined global power, or as a fragmented continent that has battered its soul for superficial economic validation. This must ring a bell in the minds of all of us. And I want to plead with all of you to let us reject the false premises that modernization requires the erasure of our cultural identity. We can, and we have done it before. Before the onslaught, we had the Benin Empire, modernized empire, well-built with streets, with water systems, beautiful cities. They came and bulldozed everything down flat to the ground. We've done it before. We can do it again. We can build advanced technological economies and participate at the highest levels of global finance while remaining profoundly African. We do not need to become a carbon copy of any civilizations to be civilized. If for anything at all, we see the Chinese with us here. Which economy is now more powerful than that of China? Have they lost their identity? Others were mentioned to you by our beloved and revered Archbishop. Yet, they are poor because of poverty of mind. Please, when you return to your respective capitals, let the resolutions we adopt here not gather dust in the archives of our secretariats. Don't forget that these days, we have not built the reading culture in our children as our fathers did. Let them be translated into active bills, robust budgetary allocations, and rigorous oversight. Go home and tell your people that their representatives have resolved to protect the sanctuaries of their homes, the heritage of their ancestors, and the sovereignty of their nations. Let us march forward with courage, with intellectual clarity, and with unyielding faith in the genius of our people. And with this, I say, may God bless the African family, and may God bless our glorious continent. And on this note, I declare the 4th African Interparliamentary Conference on Family, Sovereignty, and Values duly launched. I thank you so much for your patience.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. The Chair of the Conference of Speakers and Presidents of African Legislatures, for the very inspiring and compelling call for coordinated Pan-African action, and for that matter, the adoption of the African Charter on Family Sovereignty and Values. Now, Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, another round of applause for the Right Honorable Speaker. Now the tone is set for the official opening of the conference. And shortly before the Chief of Staff would do so, on behalf of His Excellency, the President of the Republic, ladies and gentlemen, let us enjoy a short musical performance by the official choir of Parliament, Voices of Democracy.
Omano,
development circles. The Honorable Dr. Julius Debra was raised in a modest environment and yet inspired to rise to the global stage, having transacted businesses across many countries, many continents, even from the age of 29. The Honorable Dr. Debra, highly educated, has earned his credentials from archaeology and sociology and all the way to the doctorate degree in politics. The Honorable Dr. Julius Debra entered politics out of a strong desire to serve and contribute to national development. He began his political journey within the National Democratic Congress as a parliamentary candidate for Suhum and had further risen to many notable capacities within the party and the nation. Now to public service and government service. Due to the competence and dedication of Dr. Julius Debra, it earned him several key appointments in government. In 2009, he was appointed Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Tourism Board, where he played a pivotal role in reforms that led to the transformation into the Ghana Tourism Authority. In 2013, he was appointed Eastern Regional Minister and reassigned as Greater Accra Regional Minister. And in 2015, he returned to serve once again as Eastern Regional Minister. And later in 2015, he was appointed the Minister for Local Government and Rural Development, where key among his initiatives was the National Sanitation Day, a nationwide initiative which he instituted so brilliantly to promote cleanliness, environmental hygiene, community participation, and management. Ladies and gentlemen, he is one of the rare statesmen who have had the distinguished opportunities of serving across 4 countries. Please, with a round of applause, make welcome the Chief of Staff of the Republic, the Honorable Dr. Julius Debra.
Thank you very much. I thought I was only supposed to read a speech for the president. Anyway, Right Honorable Speaker of Parliament of Ghana, Honorable Speakers of Sister African Parliament, distinguished members of Parliament and parliamentary delegates, members of our Council of State here present, our revered National House of Chief Members and Queens, our leaders of faith-based organizations here present, led by Archbishop Nicholas Duncan William, and Apostle General. I acknowledge all of you. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is a privilege and honor to join you this morning on behalf of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, who extends his warm greetings and best wishes to all delegates gathered for this important conference. There are certain places on our continent where history still speaks with unusual clarity. Ghana is one of those places. It was from this land that the call for African freedom echoed across the continent. It was here that President Kwame Nkrumah challenged Africa to believe in itself. It was here that a newly independent nation demonstrated that Africans were capable of governing themselves and determining their own destiny. And it was from here that the dream of a united, confident, and self-determining Africa gained renewed momentum. Today, the same spirit brings us together. We meet at a consequential moment for our continent. Across Africa, conversations about sovereignty, identity, governance, and development are taking on renewed urgency. At the center of many of these conversations lies a simple but profound question: how do we preserve what is uniquely African while building the prosperous future our people deserve? That is why this gathering matters. It matters because the future of Africa will not be shaped only by our economies, our infrastructure, or our technologies. It will also be shaped by the values we choose to uphold, the institutions we strengthen, and the confidence with which we define our own path going forward. and there could hardly be a more fitting place for this conversation than Ghana. The historic gateway to African liberation, where Dr. Kwame Nkrumah boldly proclaimed that the African is capable of managing his own affairs. That declaration was not simply political, it was fundamental. It was a statement of confidence in Africa's ability to govern itself, define itself, and cut its own destiny. Today we gather in that same spirit. Before proceeding further, permit me on behalf of the President and the people of Ghana to express our sincere appreciation to His Excellency Yoweri Museveni, the President of Uganda, and the people of Uganda for the outstanding leadership they have demonstrated in nurturing this important continental initiative. Uganda's commitment to advancing conversations around African values, sovereignty, governance, and development has ensured that this conference continues to grow in relevance and impact. As Ghana assumes the honor of hosting this 4th edition, we do so with humility, responsibility, and a firm commitment to advancing the vision that has brought us here together. Distinguished delegates, the theme for this conference, Consolidating Parliamentary Consensus, Advancing the African Charter on Family Values and Sovereignty, invites us to reflect on two concepts that lie at the heart of Africa's future. That's the family and sovereignty. Both are fundamental and very important. The family remains the primary building block of our societies. It is where values are transmitted, where identity is formed, and where communities find resilience during difficult times. Across Africa, families continue to perform social and economic functions that in many parts of the world have long been transferred entirely to the state. At the same time, sovereignty remains the bedrock upon which nations build their future. It is the right of a people to determine their own priorities, shape their own institutions, and organize their own societies in ways that reflect their history, culture, and aspirations. For this reason, the work before you carries profound significance. Across our continent, parliaments remain amongst the most important guardians of democratic legitimacy. Government may propose policy, but it is through parliament that national aspirations are debated, refined, and transformed into enduring laws. The decisions taken by legislators often outlive administrations and shape the trajectory of nations for generations yet unborn. Your task, therefore, extends beyond the drafting of a charter. It is to build consensus around principles that can strengthen our societies whilst preserving the values that have sustained our communities through centuries of change. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, true sovereignty cannot exist only in constitutional texts or political declaration. It must be expressed in practical outcomes. A sovereign nation must be capable of feeding its people, educating its children, protecting its vulnerable, creating opportunities for its youth, and finance its own development priorities. Across Africa, our citizens do not judge sovereignty by the speeches we make. They judge it by whether the lights stay on, whether jobs are available, whether schools educate, whether hospitals heal, and whether government keeps their promises. The ultimate expression of sovereignty is the capacity of a nation to solve the problems of its people. That is why discussions about cultural sovereignty must be accompanied by discussions about economic sovereignty. We must build economies capable of supporting the social systems we seek to protect. We must strengthen domestic production, support African enterprises, expand regional trade, and create pathways to prosperity that are anchored in our own priorities and realities. Dependency, in whatever form it appears, ultimately weakens sovereignty. Distinguished delegates,
As we discuss family values, we must also acknowledge the ideological and cultural debates taking place across the world today. Africa does not fear engagement with the world. We welcome dialogue, exchange, and cooperation, but engagement must never come at the expense of our right to define our own social and cultural norms. Many Africans continue to hold deeply rooted beliefs regarding marriage, family formation, parenthood, and community life. These beliefs are products of centuries of life lived experience, cultural evolution, and spiritual convictions. Our responsibility is not to dictate how others should live. It is to ensure that our own laws, educational systems, and public institutions remain reflective of the values and aspirations of our societies. We preserve those values through strong families, responsible leadership, and institutions that reinforce social cohesion and national identity. Honorable delegates, allow me to anchor these principles within the Ghanaian experience. Our social fabric has been shaped by generations of communal living, mutual responsibility, and respect for traditional authority. The National House of Chiefs, Queen Mothers, faith leaders, and community elders continue to play indispensable role in preserving social stability and transmitting values across generations. Their contributions remain vital in an era of rapid social and technological change. Preserving culture requires more than rhetoric. It requires policy to back it up. It means supporting indigenous languages, investing in our creative industries, empowering traditional institutions, and ensuring that the next generation grows up with a strong sense of identity and belonging. Cultural confidence must be cultivated intentionally. Ladies and gentlemen, we must also confront the economic pressure facing African families today. Rapid urbanization, changing labor markets, and rising living costs have placed enormous strain on households across our continent. Family-centered policies must therefore become a priority for governments. This means strengthening social protection programs for vulnerable households. It means supporting maternal and child health. It means expanding opportunities for decent work. And it means pursuing economic strategies that allows families to thrive together rather than forcing separation through hardship and migration. Strong families are built not only on values, but also on opportunity. Honorable members, aspirations alone do not transform societies. Progress requires discipline, consensus, and the courage to follow through on commitment. That same principle applies to work before this conference. The success of the African Charter will ultimately depend not only on what is written, but on how effectively its principles are translated into practical action within our respective countries. The true test of leadership is implementation. Distinguished delegates, we cannot discuss the future of African family without speaking directly about the African youth. Our young people are growing up in a world where information moves instantly across borders and where competing ideas are only a click away. The answer is not isolation. The answer is confidence. The greatest threat to African values is not technological nor globalization. It is hopelessness. A young person who sees opportunity in their own country becomes a stakeholder in the future of his country. A young person who sees no future becomes vulnerable to every form of disillusionment. Our ultimate defense of African values lies in our ability to provide quality education, create dignified jobs, expand economic opportunities, and ensure that every young African can see a future worth believing in. When young people believe in their future, they become the strongest custodians of their society's value. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me conclude with a message to our friends and partners around the world. Africa remains committed to international cooperation, mutual respect, and constructive engagement. We value partnership that advance development, peace, and prosperity. But we also affirm a simple principle: Africa must retain the right to shape its own future. Just as we respect the sovereign choices of others, we expect our own choices to be respected. The strength of the global community lies not in uniformity, but in mutual respect among diverse people and cultures. Distinguished delegates, history will not judge us by the resolutions we pass alone. It will judge us by whether we had the courage to preserve what is valuable, the wisdom to reform what must change, and the confidence to define Africa's future on Africa's own terms. Our continent does not lack talent. It does not lack resources. It does not lack conviction. What Africa requires is sustained leadership, stronger institutions, and shared determination to build societies that reflect the aspirations of our people. Let this conference strengthen our resolve to protect our families, deepen our sovereignty, and expand opportunities for the next generation of Africans. Let us leave Accra with a renewed commitment to build an Africa that is rooted in its value, secure in its identity, confident in its institutions, and master of its own destiny. On behalf of His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama and the people of Ghana, I wish you fruitful deliberations and a successful conference. And while your work here will be demanding, I encourage you to take a moment to experience the warmth, hospitality, and vibrant spirit of our country. Akwaba, Obake, Miawezolo. Thank you. The future of Africa will not be written for us. It will be written by us. May God bless our nations. May God bless Africa. May God bless our homeland, Ghana. Thank you.
A round of applause for the Chief of Staff of the Republic of Ghana, the Honorable Dr. Julius Debra, for the very bold statement. With a sad determination, let us define Africa's future on Africa's own terms. Another round of applause for the Chief of Staff. At this juncture, very important, we're going to take a rendition of the conference anthem, and you shall find the lyrics of the conference anthem on the last page of the brochures available to us. Let us invite the only official parliamentary choir, the Voices of Democracy, as we take the anthem. Oh, Esther Addo. Let us receive with a round of applause Esther Addo as she leads us to take the conference anthem. Please, with a round of applause. Let us all humbly rise as we take the conference anthem.
The Right Honorable Speaker, delegates of the Parliament of Africa, this anthem is dedicated to the fourth conference by the host speaker, the Speaker of Ghana's Parliament, the Right Honorable Alban Bagbin. He hopes that every one of us embraces this anthem and own it. Thank you. one shining star. With wisdom, courage, faith and mind, we stand for truth and what's right. Oh Africa, united we stand, protecting the future of our land. Together, one voice, one hope, one destiny. Africa's the future. Oh Africa, united we stand, protecting the future of our land. Together, one voice, one hope, one destiny. Africa's the future. Oh Africa, united we stand, protecting the future of our land. Together, one voice, one hope, one destiny. Africa's the future. Through every culture, tribe and tongue, a sacred song shall still be sung. The strength of home, the bond of love, the wisdom of our Father's sky, hope of youth, works by sight, keeping Africa's future right through faith and unity. We protect our identity. Oh Africa, united we stand, protecting the future of our land. Together, one voice, one hope, one destiny. Africa's the future. Oh Africa, united we stand, protecting the future of our land. Together, one voice, one hope, one destiny. Africa's the future.
Thank you very much, Esther Addo, for the beautiful rendition of the conference anthem. Now, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, let us humbly resume our seats. Indeed, O Africa, united we stand, protecting the future of our land. Together, one voice, one hope, one destiny. Africa is the future. At this point, would like to acknowledge every delegate from across the continent and to acknowledge the presence of the representative, the chairman of the Council of State, himself a member of the Council of State, Excellency Cletus Avoka, and all members of the Council of State. We acknowledge the presence of the Dean of the Diplomatic Corps, Her Excellency Iman Adil, Ambassador of the Kingdom of Morocco to Ghana, and all members of the Diplomatic Corps present. Two announcements. All too soon, we're coming to the end of the opening ceremony. We have very impactful sessions to follow after this opening ceremony. And so right from here, we shall proceed for photography and the ceremonial entrance of the Parliament. And proceeding from the ceremonial entrance after the photography, led by the Right Honorable Speaker of Parliament, Right Honorable Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagbane, and joined by the Honorable Chief of Staff, His Eminence, the Archbishop Nicholas Duncan Williams, Council of State, members of the Diplomatic Corps, and all visiting Speakers of Parliament and Senate Presidents, we shall proceed to the forecourts of the Speaker's Block for the opening of exhibition. And while at it, lunch and refreshments are provided for all delegates at the foyer of this premises, and we do so comfortably right beneath this level, and we do so comfortably to return in time by 2:45 respectfully to continue the next sessions. We thank you very much. Yadase. Akbenami, merci beaucoup. Now, before the anthem, we want to close with a prayer. And to lead us in the closing prayer It is my honor to invite my respected colleague and friend, the Member of Parliament for Daboya Mankarigu, the Honorable Shaibu Mohammed, to lead us through prayer at this stage. Thank you very much.
May we so respectfully be upstanding. Right Honorable Speaker, may I crave your indulgence to stand on existing protocols to do this closing prayer. I stand in the big shoes of the National Chief Imam, who unavoidably cannot be present here to do these honors. While at it, he has asked that as we deliberate into the following sessions, we should be mindful of the content of Chapter 18 of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. He's also asked that as we deliberate, we pay attention to the core tenets of the draft African Charter on family, sovereignty, and values. And these core tenets are family and cultural identity, national and cultural sovereignty, healthcare and education, and importantly, oversight. May we now, on this note, say the opening prayer of the Holy Quran, and those who can say it, will do that together. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta alayhim. Ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. Amen. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So as we close, we do acknowledge the presence of the Chairman of the Christian Council of Ghana, Reverend Nina Thompson, and the Apostle General of the Royal House Chapel International, Apostle General Sam Kranche Ankara, and the former General Secretary of the Christian Council, Reverend Dr. Opuni Frimpong, and all eminent clergy duly present. Distinguished guests, we shall remain standing as dignitaries, led by the Speaker of Parliament and the Chair of the Conference on the President and Speakers of African Parliaments, Right Honorable Alban Suman Kingsford Bagbane, leads the recession.
joy. Like a river, like a river, joy like a river in my soul. Joy, joy. Like a river, like a river, joy like a river in my soul. Joy like a river, like a river, like a river, joy like a river in my soul. Joy in my soul, joy like a river, joy like a river, joy like a river in my soul. Joy like a river, joy like a river.